Next up, our next speaker is a data architect, global keynote speaker, community builder, and a powerhouse of innovation. Please welcome Liping Huang, founder and CEO of DataLeaps, former senior solutions architect at Databricks and Microsoft, and one of the sharpest minds in the data community today. With three master's degrees, career experience in 6 countries, and expertise spanning Power BI, Tabular Editor, Databricks, Fabric, and Azure Data Services. Leaping doesn't just build data pipelines, she designs data ecosystems that teach, scale, and transform. Her YouTube channel, blog, and community meetups have empowered thousands to learn, build, and believe they belong in tech. Ladies and gentlemen, to take us on a journey in semantic modeling, fresh from Singapore, Data Leaps is Leaping Huang.
Hi guys, my name is Li Fing. I uh, I just flew in this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. So, in case my brain doesn't work halfway through the presentation, please bear with me. I'll be the first speaker here that doesn't speak Filipino, so bear with me. But often in New York, in San Francisco, even on the taxi here, I get asked, "Are you Filipino? Are you sure you don't have any family here?" Uh, I am born and raised Chinese. I spent most of my adult lives in Finland and UK. I worked at Microsoft as a solution architect, focusing on Power BI. When they were working on Fabric, I was like, "Ooh, let's leave." So I moved to Databricks for 3 years. And recently, about 3 months ago, I left Databricks to move to Singapore, starting my own company called DataLeaps. I do content creation for Tabular Editor, who's my client, also Power BI, Fabric, as well as Databricks. Since we are in Microsoft Office, I only do content on Azure Databricks. There's my QR code for my YouTube channel in case you want to check out the content. Just by show of hands, how many of you know Tabular Editor? A few, good. Okay, so how many of you work with semantic models in Power BI? And Fabric question was asked, how many of you have data source in Databricks? No, okay, we'll not mention Databricks then. All right, just quickly to level the playfield for Tabular Editor. Tabular Editor is an add-on to Power BI. It helps you build better semantic models faster. It unlocks like advanced features, so help you create calculation groups, perspectives, partitions, also automate a lot of tasks. If you want to batch rename a lot of things or batch do a lot of tasks without manually doing a lot of heavy lifting yourself, you can use Tabular Editor to do a lot of automation. It also helps you write DAX. So it's got IntelliSense for DAX. It helps you format DAX code faster and also helps you debug the DAX code because DAX for a lot of people are complex because of the evaluation context. But if you can debug the DAX code line by line and see what's the evaluation context for each code, then you can easily find out what's wrong with your code. Tabular Editor comes with 2 flavors. One is an open source version. It's a community version that's free. You can just download and use for free. And then there's a commercial version of Tabular Editor 3 that has a lot more powerful features for automation and so on and so forth. In terms of agenda, we're going to talk about what is a semantic model, why is it important? Since a lot of people here work with that, we'll just fly through that part. We'll talk about steps it takes to build a good semantic model, qualities of a good model, as well as how to optimize a model, mistakes to avoid by different levels, whether you're a beginner or intermediate or an expert in Power BI. There tend to be mistakes that different people make. We'll go through those. And then we'll go through some tools that might be helpful for you to build a good semantic model. Right, what is a semantic model? Again, a lot of people know this. We'll just fly through this. Semantic actually means what things mean. So in the world of data, it specifically refer to the meaning of the data and the structure of the data. A model is a representation of the real world, the relationships and the processes of the real world that we bring into data. We establish tables and relationships in a model to represent the relationships between customers and products and vendors. And for that, we build a model to represent the real world processes and systems. A semantic model in Power BI is a layer that defines tables, relationships, and calculations, and it's ready to be used for reports. It sits between your data source and your reports. As well, it is the source that your report will query to render any kind of visualization or interactive filters, as well as calculations. Now, why is it important? Because it is not just a source for a single report. If you do enterprise deployment, you separate the deployment of semantic model and the design of reports. You have multiple reports built on top of a single semantic model. Your semantic model could feed things like Copilot, notebooks, or Excel, any other like proxy models that might be built on top of the semantic model. You could also have different personas that's using that model. I think ChatGPT in the beginning was going through the personas. We'll now repeat that again. Again, different personas in your organization will be using semantic model for different purposes. And a lot of organizations today are using Power BI to do data-driven decision making. If you don't have a good semantic model, you don't have a good report. You have a fancy looking report that doesn't reflect the truth of your business. That's not good enough. So you need a model that has the correct data and the correct logic that answers the right question to actually meet your business needs. And then last but not least, everybody's buzzing about AI. Your AI needs a good semantic model to answer the questions that your business users might have. Not just the model has the right data, the accurate, the valid, the up-to-date, the complete data, but also the metadata about your semantic model needs to be correct, because the comments, the descriptions, the annotations are used by AI to understand what are these column means. How does it translate to your business terminology? It is really hard to make a very good semantic model. It takes time and effort, not just to design and make, but also to maintain. Those of you that build semantic models knows, once you build one, your business will ask for more. Every project's requirement grows arms and legs and goes on and on. And this is because maintenance is hard. Business will always come back for more. And second thing is, while different models will have common elements, they might all have parameters, they might all have partitions, but at the end of the day, each model is unique and complex in its own way. It also could be very difficult to troubleshoot. DAX is not very easy for machine to understand usually. And if you have interconnected pieces and parts to read the code and to understand what this query results come from, is really, really difficult. And then despite all those difficulties, your model always has to be correct, always has to be secure, always has to be reliable, and has to be performant. So Table Editor can help you in some of those areas. It can help you enhance your productivity, cutting through the complexity, saving time for data modeling. It can help you reuse some of the patterns and the objects and identify your issues. So a lot of people, I think in Driscoll's presentation, said the issue with my model is siloed data, is data quality, is missing data. a lot of the text and the validation features built into Tablet Editor can help you address a lot of that. So you identify issues proactively rather than letting your users or letting your UAT kind of power users come back to you with kind of issues or QA problems. And then it helps you enhance and prioritize the quality of your work without compromising your efficiency. Right, so steps of making a good model. This is where everybody starts, right? You download Power BI Desktop, you build a model, you build a report on top, you publish it to Power BI service, and now your model and your report is in Power BI service for people to consume, and that's your starting point. If we unpack that, the logical steps of building a good semantic model is you have to design your model first. You have to gather the requirements and then create the model design. Make sure that your model have the right data source that answer the right question asked by your business. The second thing is you want to connect to the data source and transform the data, potentially identify any issues with the data. You do the cleansing you need to do here, but try to push as much data cleansing as you can down to the data source, because Power BI is a visualization tool, not a data engineering tool at the end of the day. And then you create relationships. You want to avoid some of the advanced properties unless you absolutely understand them. Things like impersonating relationships, things like many to many. If you don't understand these, try not to use these. And then apply business logic, write DAX, add DAX measures and patterns, and use advanced objects like partitions, perspectives, calculation groups, all these things that can make your model more useful and performant. Once you build all of that, you want to test and optimize your model. You want to validate your calculations and the logics are working as you're expecting them to work. And then you want to optimize your DAX as well as optimize your model size so that your model is performant. And then you want to do a bit of a housekeeping. You want to organize and document, hide the fields that are not used in the report so they don't confuse your user at the end of the day, or self-service user particularly. And you want to organize those different columns or measures into different folders if you can, and then format the code and comment them in case you need to hand it over later to a different team or team member to work with. And then support and maintain the model. You want to monitor for changes and also address new issues as well as new requirements coming from your business. Now, in that process, Tabular Editor can help you every step of the way. It can help you create a model wireframe. So you can define the logic and the conceptual model, and then use that as a framework when you start developing your model. You can use the import table wizard and add new tables from sources with just a few clicks. You can easily validate the relationships using pivot grids, queries, and scripts. So you can run the DAX queries and C# scripts in Tabular Editor and validate, is this result of the data what I expected? Does that mean I have the right relationships built? And then you can write better DAX, reuse your patterns if you need to, and also use IntelliSense as well as debugger to write better DAX code faster. And then this is really cool. So Tabular Editor integrates with something called DAX Optimizer. Anyone heard of DAX Optimizer? Good. Okay, so DAX Optimizer is developed between SQL BI, so Marco Russo and Alberto, and Tabular Editor's CTO, Daniel. They collaborated and came out with a tool called DAX Optimizer I want to say last year. And essentially you upload your model to DAX Optimizer. It will tell you which one of your DAX code is not performant, and not just DAX logic, but also your row level security. If your row level security is set to make your model a lot slower, it will flag those and give you suggestions how to fix those as well. So Table Editor integrate with DAX Optimizer, and you can work with DAX Optimizer directly from inside Table Editor. It can also test your model using Best Practice Analyzer. Best Practice Analyzer is basically a JSON file that Power BI community has, or there's several versions. Table Editor has one, Michael from Microsoft CAT team has one, but whichever version you use, it's a JSON file that has the best practice of what a model should follow in terms of rules. And you can bake that into your Azure DevOps pipeline or GitHub Actions to say, is my model compliant to best practice before I deploy it to the next test environment, UAT environment, or prod environment? Because Table Editor comes with CLI support as well. So you can use CLI and Best Practice Analyzer together. And then you can leverage scripting. So you can format DAX code. That's easy. Everybody's auto formatting using AI these days. And then you can also add descriptions and comments using AI by writing a C# script. If you don't know C#, Table Editor 3 also gives you the option to record a C# script. So you can just click and drop and do things in the UI. Based on your actions, it will write the C# script for you, and you can save the C# script and you reuse it on different models or different tables and objects if you want. And the way Table Editor works is it will live connect to a model that you have deployed in Power BI Workspace. It also saves your model metadata in a local file. So that local file of metadata is what you checked, is what you check into ADO or GitHub. Because it's metadata only, it's very, very small and it doesn't contain any of your data. And it's just metadata that you checked into the repo. And also, traditionally, PBIX is a black box because it's a binary file. You don't know exactly what changed if you're doing DevOps. But with Table Editor, you can save the metadata in database.json, which is a file format that has every object. So every column, every table, every partition is a JSON file. So when you check into GitHub or you make changes, you know exactly, or GitHub, when you do the pull request, knows exactly what has changed. So you can have multiple people working on the same model without causing conflicts. It enables you to do parallel development. So, qualities of a good semantic model. You want to address the right question. I think was Chad in the beginning said, is my report relevant? Right? If you're not answering the right question, this is not a very good model to build in the first place. You want to have good quality. So 6 data quality dimensions of timeliness, accuracy, validity, completeness, consistency, and uniqueness. And using the scripting and the queries and pivot grids in Table Editor, you can test a lot of those in terms of the data quality. In terms of the quality of the code or the quality of the model, you want to use things like DAX Optimizer or Best Practice Analyzer to see, is my logic correct? Is my model compliant to best practice? It needs to be secure and reliable. You also want to have a CI/CD process, so you have UAT environment to say, is the result what people were expecting to see? You want to be performant. I had a customer that never complained about a performance of a model until they built a dashboard for their CEO, and it takes like 45 seconds to load, and then all of a sudden everybody in the company is scrambling trying to make that model performant. So you want to make this model performing part of your practice, part of your development lifecycle, so you don't have to do these reactive kind of fixes just because someone with a high job title says, oh, it's not performant enough. And then you want to make a model that's easy to use and maintain. Again, these comments, descriptions, metadata is really important for you to collaborate as well as maintain going forward. And then you want to also monitor the usage and adoption of a model. So make sure that's actually delivering business value. If you deploy the model and just left it as it is, and then 6 months later, nobody's building any report on that model or reading any report that queries that model, then the model is not useful. So you want to do constant monitoring, making sure that your model is being used by the business to deliver value. How to optimize the model? So you want to have a model that's reduced in size, so your refresh time is shorter. So remove the data that you don't need. That includes columns and rows and tables. You want to avoid redundancies if you can. So don't bring the same data in twice in different tables. And then filter and aggregate rows. Use aggregations if you can. Disable auto datetime. Auto datetime is a setting in Power BI that will give you a massive data table that's totally unnecessary. Use DAX to create a data table that's more efficient. Also, DAX is coming out with calendar very soon, shortly. So that should help you with that. Reduce the decimal positions if you can. Again, that takes up disk space when you are storing the data in VersaPack engine. Separate datetime fields. If you don't separate it, it's a very long string. Again, takes a lot of disk space. In VersaPack engine, you want to separate them out in different columns so that it's minimum space that it's taking. And don't use strings for numbers. That's just very basics for space saving for model reduction. Also, you want to use something called VersaPack Analyzer. Tabular Editor has it. DAX Studio has it. I think Bravo also has it. You can use that particular feature, and it's a free feature. Tabular Editor 2 community version would have it as well. So use that feature to analyze your model and see which part of your model is taking up the most space, and try to put these techniques in place for those columns or tables. Optimize the model with improvements, comments, and formats we went through already. Organize your measures and columns into different display folders so people can understand them and collaborate better. Avoid filtering tables in DAX. That's just DAX best practice, and that's a lot of times why your DAX code is slow. Use star schema. Not gonna go through the basics here. And optimize for your use case and tools. So for best practice analyzer, there is a rule there that says, make available in MDX to be false. And so people will like set that, and then they realize, oh, why is my Excel analyzing in Excel function all of a sudden very, very slow? Because analyzing Excel needs that available in MDX to build the hierarchies. So whatever use case that you're using, try to optimize for that. Don't just take best practice analyzer, the entire JSON file, and implement it in your DevOps. Read those rules and see what actually is relevant for you. Some versions of best practice analyzer has your datetime has to be American format of datetime. If you live in Europe, that's completely irrelevant. So just be careful which rules you actually put into place. Add field descriptions that helps AI to understand your model better, and keep it simple. Don't over-engineer. Just because you know some very fancy stuff to do doesn't mean you have to do it for every model. And that comes to more mistakes to avoid. And you don't have to raise your hands if you make any of these. Just make a mental note, it's okay. As a beginner, very, very common mistakes we see is not separating models and reports. I had a customer that came to complain last week going, I changed my model to direct link. All of a sudden, all of my users' bookmarks disappeared. Why? Because your model and your report is deployed at the same time. If you would have separated them, your report ID wouldn't have changed if your model has changed. So you want to do so that your model deployment is your model deployment, and that enables self-service reports development. Trying to not to bring too much data in, and this is what a beginner mistake always happens, is you will just load the entire schema or load the entire table in without knowing how much space each table is going to take, or how much space each column is going to take, even if you don't use them. It's very easy, very quick, just to click, load. And then when your model refresh time is over, you will pay the price. And not reducing model size exactly reflects that. And then under investing in the model development and over investing in reports and pivot tables. No disrespect to the first presenter, but the idea is people always focus on the front end, but sometimes you need the back end to be correct so you can build a good quality front end. And then over reliance on tables and matrices, try to utilize different techniques rather than just having tables and matrices. This is not Excel, this is Power BI. And not using existing solutions and patterns. A very common mistake that beginner uses is not to reuse anything that they made. Again, like if there's a pattern that's good, you reuse it across the team or the organization, save a lot of other people a lot of time as well. And then doing too much heavy lifting in Power BI basically means a business requirement comes, I will just do everything in Power BI. Any calculations, any logic, I will reflect it using DAX. Sometimes these logic should have been reflected in the data source in the gold tables. So try to work with your data engineers and decide what transformation logic should sit in where. Ideally, as much heavy lifting should have been done in the data source rather than in Power BI. As an intermediate user, sometimes you just forget that you need to keep engaging business users and keep validating their requirement, focusing on the short-term outcome for the long-term problems. Again, your problems will evolve over time, your requirement will evolve over time. You build something, you throw it out there, and you forget that that might not meet the requirements 6 months down the line. Not following up with the usage metrics and adoption. Again, this is just, I throw it off over the fence, not my problem anymore. And you want to make sure what your build actually continues, actually bring the value to the business as well. Deprioritizing the life cycle of a model or report. Again, this is referring to DevOps and CI/CD. If you build a model, you want to have certain testing in place, quality control in place, as well as user acceptance, so that it's of good quality. Neglecting testing and or like hyper optimized on it. Again, there are those people who are obsessed with best practice analyzer. I need to comply to every single rule. Doesn't matter what the rules say, and you want to be flexible in that and cater to your own reality rather than a blanket scaffolding of best practice analyzer. And then also you're not making that mistake because they're sitting here learning, but some people get complacent and says, I know Power BI, I don't need to learn more. I will just do this for a living. And as an expert, you tend to make an opposite side of mistakes. You tend to assume what you know is the truth of the reality or the truth of the world or the truth of your organization. You tend to take your personal experience and use that to reflect the aggregate of the other people or the organization. Try not to do that. Try not to make too much assumptions. And then over-engineering is a problem just because I know this. I want to show the world I know this every single time in every single data model. A shiny object syndrome. Anyone? I'm guilty. Anything new, anything fancy, I want to learn about it. My to learn list is way too long. And I think there's 30 hours of content being created on YouTube every 30 seconds. So there's a lot to learn, surely. Becoming attached to what you do, the tool, the approaches, or the features. You're very invested in what you know, and you stick with that. Try to broaden your horizon. I know everybody here works with Power BI, and it's a great tool. It's still number one in Gartner. But try to expand and learn a little bit more what Power BI can work with, and other areas of Power BI and so on and so forth. And not changing as the business evolves. Again, this is referring to being complacent. And then this is also something that's very advanced people tend to do is I have my territory and I will do my territory and I will just deprioritize documentation or hand over to other people because I'm building my own empire. And then also, that's the last bit, is forgetting what's it like to be a beginner. So try to share what you know with other people, try to learn with other people. If you talk to 3 other people that uses Power BI, I'm sure you'll learn something that you don't know. Some tools that can help you, Tablet Editor 3, I didn't do any demos or anything, but if anyone that's interested, go to my YouTube channel or come talk to me afterwards. DAX Optimizer is a good tool that will optimize your DAX code. DAX Studio is free and open source. ALM Toolkit is made by Christian Wade from CAT team that specifically help you to do schema comparison when you deploy a model. So what has changed in a model when you deploy it? Bravo help you add date tables and look at model sizes. Notebooks and views in Power BI are just newer features in Fabric when Fabric was introduced. Some features in Tablet Editor 3, and we're going to flash through this. It will help you automate the formatting of DAX code, help you write DAX code faster with IntelliSense, gives you better performance, gives you code actions that basically give you suggestions on how to improve your DAX code. It comes with best practice analyzer, Vertipack analyzer, try to help you optimize your model size. DAX optimizer, try to optimize DAX code for you. Batch tasking, so you can do one thing and apply it to all the measures or the selected measures, all the tables, selected columns, and so on and so forth. And then advanced scripting with C#, so you can automate tasks as you go. I think that's it. Very, very selfishly. I know I'm in a user group and I'm promoting a different user group, but I just started the Singapore Power BI Fabric user group. The first event is virtual on 24th at 6 p.m. We have Chris Webb from the Microsoft CAT team coming to speak about the memory management and memory errors in Power BI. And Daniel, this guy's not me, obviously, I got longer hair. But this guy actually builds Tablet Editor. He will come and talk about C# scripting, the community edition you don't have to pay for, and all the automation you can potentially do with that. So if you're interested, scan the QR code, join the event virtually. Sorry to use the platform. But yeah, that's it. Find me on LinkedIn, find me on YouTube, find me afterwards if you have any questions.
Join the Singapore user group, guys. Join. Yeah, launch event, right? July 24. And excellent speakers that they have lined up. Any questions about semantic modeling to leaping? Yes. I'll throw the mic to you.
I'm relatively new in learning Power BI and semantic models. So I'm AU. I'm from one of the companies, an analyst in finance, and I'm just inheriting some Power BIs and semantic models. Is it possible to combine two semantic models and still retain the pre-existing measures or not?
So depends on whether your measures is local measures, as in they're built on reports or they're built on semantic models.
They were built on the reports.
Yeah, so they're built on reports. They tend to be staying with the reports. But talk to me afterwards. We got a C# script can help you lift the local measures, put that into models. That will help you. That's probably the easiest way to do it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, that's using Tablet. But the C# scripting is like you can use that with the free edition. You don't have to pay for the commercial license.
An ALM toolkit.
ALM toolkit, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very, very good tool that Christian Wade made, but doesn't get enough credit.
Yeah. Especially for your purpose. And yeah, Leaping mentioned tabular editor. There's a version, again, there's a version 2, there's a version 3. Google it separately or Bing it separately. Version 2 is the free version. Version 3 is the paid version. Version 2 has a lot of features on its own. And then if you do decide that you want to support the team or you're looking for some extra features, and there's a lot, as Leaping showed earlier, support Tabular Editor 3, excellent piece of software. One of even the version 2, if you're not sure yet, one of my highly one of my highly recommended external tools that you download along with your Power BI immediately.
There's some question by my office. Right there.
Question from
Right there. Right there.
Hi, sorry. Quick question from Yam. I'm not entirely sure if this fits perfectly under the current topic, but I'd appreciate your insights. When designing semantic model in Power BI, would you recommend structuring the data model horizontally, wide, or vertically, tall? What are the pros and cons and approach, blah, blah, scalability, DAX simplicity, and VertiPack?
So VertiPack engine loves two things. It loves filtering and loves aggregation.
For those who don't know what VertiPack.
All right. Okay. So the VertiPack engine sits behind Power BI. Is you store the data in Power BI, and that's what processes your data and churn out the query and give you the results. It loves two things. It loves filtering, loves aggregation. And for that, what you want to do is a star schema, because dimension tables help you to filter, and the fact tables help you to do aggregations. So try not to do very, very wide tables, has like 200 columns, because Power BI will struggle with that to start with. And try to basically build that into a star schema. Like, it tends to be more rows is less of a problem than more columns. More rows becomes a problem when you have a very high cardinality, meaning if your every single row, if you have a billion rows and every row is unique, it will still take up a lot of space in Power BI. Now, if you have a low cardinality, let's say country, there's only, I want to say 198 country in the world, somewhere around that region, right? So your cardinality is maximum 198. And that will compress down to a very, very small disk space on Power BI. So you want to do things like that. You don't want to have a lot of columns that you're not using in the report that has very, very high cardinalities, like unique IDs, surrogate keys, and so on and so forth. Try to only use them when you absolutely need them to build relationships and eliminate them if you don't have to. Does that answer your question? Hopefully. Well,
Thanks, Liping, and thanks, Yam, for the question. Hi daw, sabi ni Nestor. So, any other questions for Miss Liping? All good, all good. In that case, again, thank you very much. Thank you for flying over.